is here.
It's Friday.
Actor Omar Epps.
My brother.
He's joining us next. He's a huge Cowboys fan. This is going to be fun.
I just finished watching In Too Deep for the 10th time just the other day with him and my boy LL. Because LL, I don't know LL as well as I know him, but LL grew up 5 minutes away from me on Farmers Boulevard in Queens. Hollis.
Farmers Boulevard.
Hollis. Queens, the borough.
He's got a new movie.
I'm just saying.
That comes out November 11th. We're going to talk to him all about that star-studded cast. Looking forward to it. But speaking of stars, Sunday in prime time, it's all about the rookies looking like vets. An NFC East battle when Carson Wentz and the Eagles face Dak Prescott in the Cowboys. Wentz has led his team to a 4-2 record and has the highest completion percentage against the blitz. Dak Prescott has the best total QBR at 84, while leading Dallas to a 5-1 record according to Elias. This is the only instance, listen to this, people, since the 1970 merger where combined rookie win percentage was 750 or better entering the matchup. Only time ever. We are witnessing history. Stephen A. Who's winning it?
First of all, I didn't want to start out this show. I want to let America know that I'm very unhappy that I had to start out this show. Because obviously everybody knows how I feel about the Dallas Cowboys, and I can't wait for my man Omar to roll up here because this dude is one of the ultimate Cowboy fans. That's one of the things that makes me sick about him. Maybe the only thing that makes me sick about him, because I love the brother and I can't wait for him to come on. But I sit here today, Max Kellerman, annoyed at myself because I allowed you with your slick self to set me up. Because they said, hey, you know what, we got to start out the show. I mean, it's a big game this weekend. Who's going to win? And I scratched my head and I said, damn, I got to pick the Cowboys. I am so sick to my stomach that I have to do it, but it is necessary.
How about them Cowboys?
It is necessary. It's all right, though. They won't let me down. They'll mess up at the right time. It's just not the right time yet, and this is not going to be it. I'm looking at the Cowboys, a defense that's ranked 7th in the NFL, by the way, 16th in yards allowed, but 7th in points allowed, okay? They're 21 against the pass, which is not great, but just 10th against the rush, which is relatively decent. Here's why I'm rolling with the Cowboys. For basically 3 reasons. 1, your offensive line. 2, Ezekiel Elliott. Okay. And 3, I don't trust the Eagles' passing game at all. I think that Jordan Matthews is basically the weapon that Carson Wentz has available to him. I haven't been that impressed with Ryan Matthews, even though Doug Peterson says he's not going to bench him at all or anything like that. He hasn't been awful. He's fumbled the ball a few times, but he hasn't been awful. But I don't consider him a game changer. And I think because of the requisite weapons that the Eagles are lacking right now and the way that they have struggled offensively over the last couple of weeks, not to mention the fact that the game is in Dallas and Dallas had a bye week. I think all of that works in their favor. And so because of it, I think in Big D, in Dallas, Texas, in Arlington to be exact, in Jerry's billion-dollar playpen, I'm going to have to roll with the Cowboys. I think they're going to run the ball effectively, move the chains, but ultimately it's going to come down to Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles passing attack not being able to do but so much to beat this team. I'm picking the Cowboys to win this game.
Eagles are going to win the game. First of all, it's an NFC East divisional rivalry game. And those are always tough and close. It's not going to be a blowout either way. We know there's going to be a tough, hard-fought game, shifts of momentum down the stretch. That's the way NFC East games always seem to go. So then you bring up the fact that it's at Dallas, you know, at Cowboys and AT&T, whatever they're calling it nowadays, at the new stadium.
It's Jerry's billion-dollar playpen.
Right.
Just call it his billion-dollar playpen.
That's not a home field advantage. That's a home field disadvantage. Since they opened 29-30 below 500 at home, 33-26 above 500 on the road. Not huge swings, but certainly not advantage to play at Dallas. As a matter of fact, their only loss so far this year, week 1, to my New York Football Giants, also an NFC East divisional rivalry game at home. It's the only game they lost. 2, people bring up, of course, rightly, that offensive line. Because Dallas's success and Dak Prescott's success is predicated on the offensive line blocking, especially for the run, so they have a ball control offense. And the Eagles are the 10th worst. They allow the 10th most yards per rush in the league. You know, on the ground, they're not great. They're not going to stop the Cowboys from running. The Cowboys will control the clock. That doesn't mean they're going to win. You don't pick up as, larger chunks usually on the ground than you do through the air. And let me tell you what the Eagles are going to do to the Cowboys. They're going to hit Dak Prescott. The Eagles, they get to the quarterback. They allow the third fewest points in the league, the fifth fewest yards in the league. They have an elite defense. So you have two rookie quarterbacks
against the pass.
Against the pass, that's
okay.
True, of comparable ability. One of them is facing an elite defense and the other isn't. Carson Wentz, say whatever you want about the weapons he has available to him. And also the Cowboys have had a decent enough defense, but it is far from elite. Carson Wentz facing an okay defense. Dak Prescott facing an elite one. No home field advantage. Carson Wentz and the Eagles win in a tough-fought NFC East divisional rivalry game.
Listen, you got a guy in Tyrone Smith, okay? This is a dude that's got like a 98.7 pass blocking efficiency. He does an exceptional job of protecting Dak Prescott. He did an exceptional job last year. He had a bad game against the Eagles last year where he surrendered 2 sacks. I don't see that happening again this time around. You've got Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham that's going to come at Dak Prescott all day long. But if you're Smith and you sit up there and you neutralize Connor Barwin, then you can leave the rest of the guys on the Dallas offensive line to sit up there and protect Dak Prescott against Cox and Graham. If you do that effectively, now we're not even taking the Dak Prescott situation into consideration. I got to look at it from that perspective. I got to assume that the Philadelphia Eagles, who rank 14th against the run, which is why I said they're not great defensively, they're great against the pass. You have to remember one of the reasons why they're great in the pass. They've been able to relatively effectively neutralize a lot of teams' passing games because teams haven't been able to run on them, and you're able to crowd folks into the secondary. They struggled against the Redskins. Why did that happen? Because Matt Jones was doing his thing, and the Redskins collectively rushed for 230 yards. That was a big loss for the Philadelphia Eagles. They lost by 1 point to Detroit. They got smacked around a little bit against the Redskins. That was the reason why. If you're the Dallas Cowboys, what you do is you emulate that formula. What you do is say, excuse me, Matt Jones ain't no damn Ezekiel Elliott. He damn sure ain't the combination of Ezekiel Elliott and Alfred Morris. He damn sure ain't the combination of those two individuals with this offensive line, because the Redskins' offensive line, albeit having played better this year, is certainly not Dallas's offensive line. And so if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you've got to crowd the line of scrimmage to try to neutralize them. You're going to try to force Dak Prescott to beat you, but then all of a sudden I'm hearing Des Bryant is coming back this weekend. Okay, and oh, by the way, I'm assuming that Cole Beasley and Jason Witten were utilized in terms of Dak Prescott thrown in the middle of the season, but he hasn't been doing that.
Des Bryant, by the way, I think Des Bryant is still a top 5 receiver. I just believe that. We don't have evidence of it this year, and A.J. Green is certainly in the top 5, if not top 3. I think he's kind of leapfrogged some guys in a lot of people's estimation. But Des Bryant is a fantastic receiver. Adding a piece like that to a formula that's working doesn't always work right away. Over the long run, of course, it helps. But first game back, especially since Dak doesn't have the pressure so far to get Des the ball, he can spread it around. He develops rapport with Beasley, Williams, Witten, whoever. Suddenly you get a guy who's going to want the ball, who you need to target a little bit more, who may be more of a downfield threat. That doesn't always work game one to your advantage. And Dak, although he threw an interception last game, still has some regressing to the mean to do. I know the offense is designed in such a way that it's not a high risk for turnovers, for interceptions from Dak. And Dak is also, let's also credit him, he's executed the game plan. He's a smart quarterback. You can see it from the preseason. He's just good. But still, he's not going to go through the season with an 8-to-1 or 10-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He's going to get turned over. He's going to turn the ball over sometimes. I think this is a likely week. At home, as I said, where they don't have a huge advantage against an elite defense. Time for Dak to throw another interception or maybe 2, which in a game like this will make the difference. I
would just feel a lot better if I believe the Dallas Cowboys could, if I believe the Dallas Cowboys would not be able to run on the Eagles. I suspect they will be able to.
They will.
I mean, and that's my issue. If you can run on the Philadelphia Eagles, you can take them. They obviously have upgraded defensively since the absence of, since the exodus of Chip Kelly. We understand that because we all understand that Chip Kelly didn't give a damn about defense. He gave a damn about his offense, and he threw his defense to the wolves because time of possession obviously was flagrantly bad for the Philadelphia Eagles last year in terms of the quickened pace, how fast his offense moved. He gave no regard whatsoever to the conditioning and the legs of the defense, and they suffered miserably probably because of it last year. This year with Jim Schwartz, they're obviously significantly different along with Doug Peterson. But you're going to have to be able, in order to beat the Dallas Cowboys, you're going to have to be able to move the football. You're going to have to be able to move the chains. You're going to have to keep their offense off the field. And all you have to me is Jordan Matthews. And by the way, he's suspect because of his knee. Do you realize that Brent Selleck and Zach Ertz, we talk about Rob Gronkowski and Martellus Bennett, okay? We think about the tight end spot in New England and various other places. Do you realize with the Philadelphia Eagles, Zach Ertz and Brent Selleck had great years in years past. They've got like a combined 10 receptions for like 240 yards on the season. They've done nothing this year.
There's two ways.
Nothing. They haven't played every game, but they haven't been effective at all, Max.
There's two ways to look at that, and the way I see it in the NFL, especially over the small sample of the first couple games, is, as I said earlier, there will be regression to the mean. If you know you have talent on the team over the course of the season, they're going to get theirs. When I see guys underperforming on the offense, to me it says in the NFL this time of year especially, we're about to conclude the first half of the year, they're due. They should get going. But yes, the Eagles, without a terrific kind of running game against a ball control offense, I mean, one of the reasons Dallas's defense is maybe a little better than it should be is they're well rested. The Eagles are going to have to be big on third down. They're going to have to pick up those first downs. And then that comes down to, do you believe in Carson Wentz? Do you think he's the real deal? And so far this year, especially when I see him, how he looks when he's dropping back under pressure,
right?
I think he is.
Max, I'm looking at it right now. I just want to make sure I corrected myself. Yeah. Zach Ertz has 11 receptions. Brent Selleck has 5 receptions on the year. And Trey Burton has 9 receptions, playing a little tight end spot for them in the games that he's played. Essentially, what that comes down to is 25 receptions for about 290 yards.
Not a lot.
From the tight end spot for the season in 6 games. That's porous. And if you're the Eagles, you've got to have something other than Jordan Matthews. I'll give credit to the Dallas Cowboys for this much. You at least have to have more than Jordan Matthews in order to beat them.
And yet with that, they have 2 losses on the year. If they beat Dallas, they're in a tie for first place, and they just beat the Vikings in a...
Don't give me the Vikings. What do they have?
I can't wait for this game.
Fire
it up.
There was no Adrian Peterson. Stephon Diggs was coming off his injury.
There is no Adrian Peterson.
Come on now.
Trying to tell you that.
All right, lovelies, we got to move on. We're all in a good mood. It's Friday. We want you guys to weigh in on Twitter. Which quarterback will have the better game on Sunday night, Dak Prescott or Carson Wentz? We'll share those results a little later in the show. But speaking of marquee matchups, Game 3, the World Series is shifting to a National League park. And despite calls for him to start in left field to keep his bat in the lineup full-time, Cubs slugger Kyle Schwarber won't play because doctors said it was too soon. Schwarber, in a surgically repaired left knee, had been cleared to hit and run the bases 10 days ago, but not do any lateral running needed to play the outfield. The Indians, on the other hand, have Carlos Santana, who the team's DH in left field for Game 1. Santana hasn't played any games in left field since 2012, and that was only 4 innings. So the question we ask is, should the National League adopt the DH?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, listen, let me tell you something right now, and this doesn't really have as much to do with baseball as it has to do with interest. The fact of the matter is that, let's take, for example, Schwarber tonight. He can't play because he needs to play the field, you know, because obviously you're not DHing in a National League. You can pinch hit, but you're not DHing. So as a result of that, Schwarber, in order for him to get at-bats, he would have to play the field, which he's ill-equipped to do because of that ACL. I mean, they should have considered putting him at third base, putting Bryant out in the outfield as far as I'm concerned, because he doesn't have to move just as much. Max Kellerman, yesterday on my radio show, Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio, every weekday 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Channel 82. I had the great Jim Thome on my show. Smacked 612 home runs in his career. Played for years with the Cleveland Indians. He was sitting in there talking with me. He said he wouldn't play Schwarber. Then I sat up there and said, what about moving him to third base? He said, I would consider that before I put him in the outfield because there's less movement. And so re-aggravating that injury is slimmer. There's a lesser chance of him doing that. That was his position. Here's my position. If you have the DH, excuse me, it ain't just, you know how the saying goes, chicks love the long ball. It ain't just chicks who love the long ball. Everybody loves the long ball. We want to see home runs. We want to see doubles smacked into the alley. We want to see all of that. I want to see this dude up to bat and not just pinch hitting in a key pivotal moment, which he will be allowed to do. I'm talking about him being a DH. Without the DH in the National League, I think that takes something away from the ultra excitement of the game. And God knows baseball could use it at every turn. We get the tradition, we get strategy and schemes, we get all of those different things. But in the interest of making sure you don't bore people to death, make sure that the people who we want to see at the plate are able to be there and not be confined to the dugout because
he'll be there. He'll be there for an at bat. You know, I mean, that will happen at some point. But you're talking about like 4 at-bats. So
sure, that's a big deal, Max.
One of the issues facing baseball and the reason it's aging, I think primarily it's true. It's the offense, right? Okay. I mean, look, during the PED era, when home runs are flying out of the park, all the attendance records were smashed. And baseball the economy was catching up to the economy of football. I mean, really a couple billion off. Like football at the time was 12 or 14 billion, and baseball was 8 or 10 billion, whatever it was catching up. Okay. And since the offense went away, it's back a little bit, but not to nearly to the levels it was. Interest has waned, yes. But also, in a broader sense, the general trend in this country, you know, where America used to be the national pastime, the general trend is football and basketball get increasingly popular, and baseball gets increasingly marginalized. And I believe that's because baseball is intrinsically less athletic than those other sports. There's less athleticism on display, which is why my favorite highlight shows are always back in the day, This Week in Baseball. I didn't care who hit the home run. They all looked the same. It was Ozzie Smith grabbing the ball at shortstop, making an incredible play. Omar Vizquel later on, because that displays athletic ability. And what the DH does is reward less athleticism. The reason he can't play is because I'm fine with not having a DH. Is injury. Just like Adrian Peterson can't play for injury. You don't get to see him a couple times a game because guess what? That sport requires athletic ability and the injury has robbed him of it, just like it has Schwarber.
Allow me to interject. You said it's injury and that's it and you just have to accept it. Adrian Peterson plays for the most popular sport in America.
Right.
Schwarber is playing for a sport that clearly has dissipated in terms of interest. That's one difference. Point number one. Point number two, I don't care who you are. Yes, you might appreciate athleticism or what have you, but everyone loves to see the long ball. If you could smack homers out of the park, what helped resurrect the sport of baseball after the cancellation of the 1994 World Series? You and I both know.
Steroids and human growth hormone.
Well, you could say that, but what I'm saying is it was elevated and illuminated.
McGuire and Sosa.
I'm saying through the home runs.
Right.
Through the home runs. If they weren't smacking home runs, we may not have paid attention to the whole steroids thing. Let's keep that in mind. It was
of course, but that led to the home run.
I'm saying, but I get it. I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying the fact that we saw those balls flying out of the park re-elevated a level of interest in this sport of baseball. So all I'm saying to you is this. If we understand that, then we have to understand when you got a kid that can bring that kind of interest to the table. I'm just one time, Max.
But wait, I made those points. Yes, it's offense. I agree with that. He still will have a chance to play offense. And by the way, it'll happen at a very dramatic moment. Arguably a more dramatic moment because the only time you'll see him is likely to be in a situation maybe with the game on the line as opposed to so that's one. Okay. Two, you say, well, football's more popular. So Adrian Peterson, he's hurt, whatever. It doesn't hurt the sport as much. My argument is one of the main reasons in a general sense the trend has been toward football and basketball. They're more exciting, people say. One of the reasons is, a major reason is they're more athletic. And so baseball, when you have the DH, rewards less athletic ability.
Yeah, but you're not taking.
You're hurt. You can't move. You can't field. You still get there.
And this is where you should be ashamed of yourself for missing this point. You and I both know that what has also contributed to the diminished level of interest in baseball is what is a perceived arrogance. We do things our way. They're always the last to the party. They're always the last to change and implement modifications. We do it our way. America's national pastime, which, by the way, hasn't always been that inclusionary, which helped alienate a segment of the populace, which would also contribute to the diminished level of interest. Because while you're struggling, if you do nothing to really gain or revitalize an interest in the sport because of your arrogance.
The length of the game.
By the way, he can. And you know what slows down the game? The DH, like the DH who takes pitches well, as opposed to the pitcher who you get out right away. 1988, Kirk Gibson couldn't play. He was hurt. He hobbles up to the plate for a pinch hit appearance and hits a home run. One of the most iconic moments in the history of baseball as a pinch hitter. Did not get into the game, and there's no DH.
That's still not an argument against not having a DH. It's just saying that it's more dramatic pinch hitter.